Hi, everybody. It's time for us to record some more for our Tuesdays with Morrie book. So I accidentally messed up on the last recording and forgot a page to record. So this is actually part of the audio visual chapter, and then we'll start our next one. But in the audio visual, it starts with a flashback and it says, "It was our first class together in the spring of 1976. I entered Morrie's large office and noticed the countless books that line the wall, shelf after shelf. Books on sociology, philosophy, religion, psychology. There's a large rug on the hardwood floor and a window that looks over the campus walk. Only a dozen or so students out there fumbling with notebooks and syllabi, most of them wearing jeans and earth shoes and plaid flannel shirts. I tell myself it will not be easy to cut such a small class. Maybe I shouldn't take it. Mitchell, Morrie says, reading from the attendance list. I raise a hand. Do you prefer Mitch or is Mitchell better? I'd never been asked this question by a teacher. I do a double take at this guy who's wearing a yellow turtleneck and green corduroy pants, the silver hair that falls on his forehead. He's smiling. Mitch, I say. Mitch is what my friends call me. Well, Mitch it is then, Morrie says, as if closing a deal. And Mitch? Yes. I hope that one day you will think of me as a friend, says Morrie. Now, the next chapter is the orientation. As I turn the rental car onto Morrie Street in Newton, a quiet suburb of Boston, I had a cup of coffee in one hand and a cell phone between my ear and shoulder. I was talking to a TV producer about a piece we were doing. My eyes jumped from the digital clock. My return flight was in a few hours. To the mailbox numbers on the tree-lined suburban street. The car radio was on the all-news station. This was how I operated, 5 things at once. Roll back the tape, I said to the producer. Let me hear that part again. Okay, he said, it's going to take a second. Suddenly, I was upon the house. I pushed the brakes, spilling the coffee into my lap. As the car stopped, I caught a glimpse of a large Japanese maple tree and 3 figures sitting near it in the driveway. A young man and a middle-aged woman flanking a small old man in a wheelchair. Morrie. At the sight of my professor, I froze. Hello, the producer said in my ear. Did I lose you? I had not seen him in 16 years, and his hair was thinner, nearly white, and his face was gaunt. I suddenly felt unprepared for the reunion. For one thing, I was stuck on the phone, and I hoped that he hadn't noticed my arrival, so that I could drive around the block a few more times, finish my business, and get mentally ready. But Morrie, this new, withered version of a man I'd once known so well, was smiling at the car, hands folded on his lap, waiting for me to emerge. Hey, the producer said again, are you there? For all the time we'd spent together, for all the kindness and patience Morrie had shown me when I was young, I should have dropped the phone and jumped from the car, run and held him and kissed him hello. Instead, I killed the engine and sunk down into the seat as if I were looking for something. Yeah, I'm here, I whispered and continued my conversation with the producer until we were finished. I did what I'd become doing best. I tended to my work even while my dying professor waited on his front lawn. I'm not proud of this, but that is what I did. Now, 5 minutes later, Morrie was hugging me, his thinning hair rubbing against my cheek. I had told him I was searching for my keys. That's what had taken me so long in the car, and I squeezed him tighter, as if I could crush my little lie. Although the spring sunshine was warm and he wore a windbreaker and his legs were covered with a blanket, he smiled faintly sour, the way people on medication do sometimes. With his face pressed so close against mine, I could hear his labored breathing in my ear. My old friend, he whispered. You've come back at last. He rocked against me, not letting go. His hands reached up for my elbows as I bent over him. I was surprised at such affection after all these years, but then in the stone walls I had built between my present and my past, I had forgotten how close we once were. I remember graduation day, the briefcase, his tears at my departure, and I swallowed because I knew deep down that I was no longer the good, gift-bearing student he remembered. I only hoped that for the next few hours I could fool him. Inside the house, we sat at a walnut dining room table near a window that looked over the neighbor's house. Morrie fussed with the wheelchair, trying to get comfortable. As was his custom, he wanted to feed me, and I said, all right. One of the helpers, a stout Italian woman named Connie, cut up bread and tomatoes and brought containers of chicken salad, hummus, and tabbouleh. She also brought some pills. Morrie looked at them and sighed. His eyes were more sunken than I remembered, and his cheekbones were more pronounced. This gave him a harder, older look, until he smiled, of course, and the sagging cheeks gathered up like curtains. Mitch, he said softly, you know that I'm dying. I knew. All right then, Morrie swallowed the pills, but put down the paper cup and inhaled deeply, and then let out, "Shall I tell you what I think it's like? What it's like to die?" "Yes," he said. Although I was unaware of it, our last class had just begun.